Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending today's webcast, Hitting the Slopes with the Revit Site Designer plugin. Our presenter today is Dan Rosenberg. He's a solutions engineer with Hagerman and Company. Before we get started, I'll let you know that you're in listening only mode. If you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen. They'll be addressed at the end of the presentation. As we close down the session today, you'll be prompted to fill out a short survey, and we ask that you take a few moments to fill that out for us. This webcast does qualify for one AIA continuing education credit. If you would like to receive this credit, please leave your AIA number on question 4 of our survey. Additionally, all registrants will receive a follow-up email containing a link for the recording of this presentation. And with that, I will hand things over to Dan.
All right, thank you, Ashley. I'm still seeing a attendees still on hold button here to start the broadcast pop up. Are you seeing that?
I am not.
Okay, I guess we are good to go. I will go ahead and click that. All right, well, thank you, Ashley. Hey, everybody. Thank you all for joining today's webcast. We are doing some digging into the Site Designer plugin today. There are definitely some mixed reviews on this plugin, and I think a lot of that actually has to do with getting started. I have a pretty solid workflow that I will show today, and I think this will help people that have tried and crashed and burned and want to see how to make it work. So with that, let's take a look at the agenda. We will go pretty quickly through these first few slides, then spend a good amount of time on the front end. I believe this is important because these are hurdles that prevent people from actually using the tool. Once you understand my simple workflow, I think you should be able to smash through the barriers and have success with this plugin. Before that, we will find where to download, then see what the ribbon looks like, some minimal prep work, import Land XML files, set the base topo. All the while, I will sprinkle in helpful tips to get you over those initial stumbling blocks. Then we will start to take a look at the tools themselves and how to modify the features you placed if needed. So is the Site Designer plugin the end-all be-all tool for site design in Revit? No way, not even close. Is it something you're going to use on every single project? Probably not, but is it something that is useful and another helpful tool to add to your arsenal? Absolutely. Why? Well, first of all, it's free with Revit, but more importantly, it does things that you would not be able to do with Revit out of the box, or would take hours and hours and hundreds of clicks and lots of brain power. So real quick, just so you know, here is where to find Site Designer. It is located in your Autodesk account at manage.autodesk.com. You can do a little search up at the top, and that'll filter your products. If you find Revit here, you can click and expand that down. And then go ahead and click on that. And click on Revit 2018. Over on the right tab there, updates and add-ons, you can do another little search, kind of a hidden little search box there, search for site, and click the browser download button. And that's it. So once you find that, you've got the download. So it used to be on the Apps Exchange, but that is no longer the case. Okay, so as far as download and install goes, it's pretty fast and painless. Make sure you do not have Revit running when you launch. Then just go through the picks and clicks. When you relaunch Revit, you should see a new tab installed. Basically, once you are in Revit, Site Designer gets a dedicated tab, and you can see that you get a whole ribbon dedicated to the plugin. I will break this down once we dig into working with the tools, or maybe a little bit now. One thing I like about this ribbon is that everything is set up pretty intuitively. You start at the left by optionally importing and starting from a Land XML file. Then you will have to assign a base topo surface. Once you have the base topo surface created, you can then place any of the features available in the plugin, and those are all found in the locate panel. And after you have created your site features and need to make any mods or adjustments, you can then use the feature-specific modification tools found in the Modify panel. And I don't think we will get to these buttons in today's discussion, but you have some of the housekeeping tools at the far right, like Family Manager, Settings, and the About buttons. Okay, so I like to check a couple of things before I get started with this plugin. First, I will make sure that I'm in a duplicate view of my site plan, named it existing, and I'm going to double check my phase here, make sure it's set to existing. And I will also check my view range and make sure that I've set it high enough. In this case, I've modified it to 400 feet, so I'm above the highest level of my topography that I'm going to be working with. So now that we are familiar with what the Site Designer ribbon looks like, and we have our set up our file, let's get started and take a look at the Import Land XML tool. This is not a required step, but useful if you are working with a civil engineer using Civil 3D. So what is a Land XML file? Well, basically, it is a data file that includes all the points and coordinates from a civil engineer's Civil 3D model. It is a simple export, and the file size should only be a few megs. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the process here. So again, starting on the left side, I'll hit the Import Land XML button, click the little three-dot button, and find my XML file. You've got a couple options here, and I'll talk about that a little more. You've got all your alignment options here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here. You can see we've got import topo surfaces found in Land XML file and import alignments found. Well, the XML file could contain multiple topo surfaces, and it could also contain some alignments for site features. The one I'm going to import doesn't have any alignments. It does have a topo surface, and you'll see some alert boxes that will allude to that. Then you have the positioning options that you're familiar with seeing in Revit. So I'll go ahead and continue with that. I think I'll just do auto center to center. And it finds the topo surface in the XML file, and I can click OK to accept that and bring it in. And we will name it whatever we want. That's a modifiable field there. And then we can add it to our existing phase, or we can overwrite an existing topo, but in this case, we're creating a new one. So I'll go ahead and click OK. Now, it says the Land XML file does not contain any alignments, so I'll just click OK to continue, and that's perfectly fine. We're going to add our own features based on our own model lines, so it's not an issue. Now, in some of the things you're going to see later, I have modified the wait time on this, but for this one, I'll just show you in real time how long it takes to load. It's pretty short import, or yeah, just a minute or two tops. Also depends a lot on the file size. But yeah, this is a pretty big site we're going to be working with today. So I'll let that bring it in. And you get an alert telling you it's done. Click OK. And OK again. And you can see our site topography created and ready to go. So I would call this the first great feature from site design, something you couldn't do without it. Easily bringing a site in from Civil 3D into Revit, using the import Land XML button. In this case, I'm looking at it in 3D, and we're going to make a happy green site surface here. I'll just modify the material and just change the render appearance color on my earth fill to a green for today's presentation. And from there, we are ready to move on to the next slide here. So this screenshot here is to show you that it creates a normal topo surface like you were used to working with on a regular basis. In this case, I had selected it and clicked the Edit Surface button. I zoomed in so you can see all the individual dots. You can select those and move them in plan or adjust the elevation like a normal topo surface. So I'll just click Cancel and get back to where we were. And now you don't have to import from Land XML to get started. That was just a bonus for people working with Civil 3D engineers. You could also create a standard topo like you're used to seeing. The end result will be the same. So whether you have imported a topo surface from Land XML or you've created one the old-fashioned way with the topo surface tools in Revit, you will still need to use this next tool before you can do anything with the site designer tools. So the set base topo surface creates a copy of your original and enables it for the tools inside Site Designer. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So next tool over, working from left to right, Set Base Topo Surface. It's going to find the surface that we have in here. You could select it from the list, or you can click the Pick button, and it will allow you to select it in the model. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. And the copy is going to be called Proposed Topo Surface, and we can put it on whatever phase we would like. And once I click Apply, it will go ahead and convert it into a piece of topography that is enabled for Site Designer tools. All right. So moving right along here. So once you have done all of that setup, you can now start to add some of the nice features of the plugin. The first one we are going to do is a soft terrain. So what the heck is a soft terrain? Well, it is a way to smooth out a section of the topo surface such that you eliminate high and low points and have a nice flat surface to work with. Now, the nice thing about this is you have lots of options here. You can make one that follows the overall slope of the site. In this case, you can offset it in elevation and have a nice even slope up or down to the soft terrain. Another option is to have a flat terrain. You can have it set to any elevation you need, and the software will grade the site to connect to it. Very cool stuff. So in this example, I have a small berm connecting the side to my soft terrain, which is set to be 3 feet offset from the average slope of the site. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that now, and we'll see how this works. So the first thing I do is set my view to wireframe, and that is because the software works off of model lines. So I can use the model lines I draw in my site plan for the site designer tools. Alternatively, if your Land XML file contained alignment lines, those will serve the same purpose. Then I will click on my soft terrain tool, and you will get an alert letting you know that there are no families loaded. So I always click OK and go ahead and load the defaults. If I click on the little 3 dots button, it will take me to the families that come with the plugin. If you need to modify these or create your own, I believe that is possible as well. I'm going to choose the 4-foot wide berm with a 1-to-1 slope, and I will set the relative elevation to a 3-foot positive offset from the topo. Alternatively, you can do that constant elevation and it will cut and fill as necessary, depending on your elevation. Notice chain is selected by default. Create a copy is selected by default. And use an existing host line is selected by default. Those are the model lines we drew. So if you didn't draw model lines, you could click the Draw Host Lines button, but I like the precision of drawing the model lines in advance. So after that, select the model lines, click Insert, and the software will recognize that you have a closed chain, and it will want to know whether you would like the berm slopes on the inside or outside. So I selected No, and it will draw them on the outside. Now we have a little magic of the internet, and there we have it, our finished soft terrain. Close out the Locate Soft Terrain tool, and let's have a look at this in 3D. So we're not seeing anything here. That's because I'm still in an existing view. So if I switch it to New Construction and then switch it to Show New, there we go. Looks good. So if I zoom in, you can see that 3-foot bump up right there. And that looks good as well. All right. So the soft terrain is also useful for a berm or a swell. You can see my model lines drawn in here, and the result is our berm right here. No cool demo for this one because the process is the same. I just draw the path instead of an enclosed loop. One thing I think I might have forgot to mention on the initial setup that's very important is in my site plan, I always turn off the existing topography. That way, when I'm working with the tool, I make sure I don't accidentally select the existing one. So I'm only seeing the new topo surface here. Otherwise, if I, just like in that 3D view, if I had turned off the old topography, you'd see the old squiggly lines going through my nice soft terrain, and I wouldn't want that. All right. Okay, so now let's move ahead to the next tool here. So the street tool is pretty self-explanatory, so we will just kind of jump into the demo for this one. As you can see here, I dropped in some elevation tags so I can know where to set my elevation for my street. The next thing I do is draw in some model lines. And I can probably speed this process up a bit. Once those are drawn in, So I just drew in 2 segments and used the fillet tool to get a nice curve here. All right, so then I click on the locate street command. Choose the family I want to use. Then I can accept the name or change it. Then I have the option to do a relative elevation, kind of like I did for the soft terrain, or better yet, let's do one with a constant elevation. This will give us a good amount of site rework, which is exactly what I want. I am choosing 260 for the elevation, so it should get a good amount of cut and a good amount of fill. Everything else is about the same here, except I should have selected create a copy. Otherwise, my model lines get absorbed into the sketch. Anyway, I can click insert, then select my model line. Now this took about 2 minutes, which I think is incredible for the amount of work it actually did. This would have taken hours, if not been impossible to do manually. So I can go ahead and close out of the tool and check it in 3D. You can see where the topos had to change dramatically for the fill to reach the street level. And then let's kind of rotate around, check out where it cut. And then this is also one of my favorite things to do in Revit. You can drop a camera at the required elevation. In this case, I'm going to put it at 265.5 before placing it. Place the camera in and drive down my newly created street with the walk tool. And you can see there's kind of an abrupt end there. That's just, you know, just because of the way I drew the street. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the next tool, which is create a sidewalk. So the process is very similar. I'm going to draw in my model lines, just like I did for the street tool and the soft terrain. Escape. Site Designer tab, Sidewalk tool. Set my family here. Change the name if I want. Elevation's got a 6-foot offset relative to the site. That's exactly what I want. Create a copy. Chain, insert, select. And it will draw this one. Took a little longer than the last few, but even still, pretty good for all the work it's doing. And then close out of there once it's finished. And let's take a look at it. Okay, so here's what it looks like in 3D. You can see that everything's graded to the sidewalk. Some things aren't perfect on here. For example, I've got little places where it doesn't exactly match up perfectly. So that's no problem. I can do a quick little edit here. If you select so there's a good place where it's not perfect. If you click Edit Surface, that takes you into the topography editing. and you can find the problem dot right there, click it, delete it, and then everything cleans up pretty nicely. Click finish to finish the sketch. And there's a couple other places where I would probably do that, but pretty easy cleanup on the Create Sidewalk tool. All right, 1 second here. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so here's a helpful tip just for sidewalks. So which one looks better, top or bottom? Well, the top, right, with the control joints. How did I do that? Well, in the bottom one, my sidewalk was drawn with a continuous model line. The top one was drawn with the model line split into 4-foot segments. Very good trick to make it look like a real sidewalk. Pretty easy to do. All right, so that brings us to the modify elements that we've created. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so if I click the, let me slow this down here. So what I've done is, I want to reiterate this. So a lot of these buttons look very similar. You've got the locate buttons with all the tools listed, and then you've got a counterpoint here, a modify version of the same buttons. So if I want to modify this soft terrain, I have to use the soft terrain button under the modify panel. All right. Then I select sketch line of the one that I want. Lost our video here. Let's go back. Okay, so if you look closely, when I first went into the tool, the scale was messed up. These annotations, these useful elevation points and slopes, I can't read them. So I clicked the change scale button and can make that a little bigger so it's readable. So I'm going to add a vertex here with the add vertex tool, and I can just click a point. And then this is tricky too. In order to finish, you have to right click and hit cancel and then apply. If you hit escape, it doesn't work. I kind of wish there was like a finish or a checkbox button, but that's why I'm telling you now. Just remember, you got it. Whenever you're using the modify tool and you're done clicking, just right click and click cancel. So again, this one took a little while as well, but you can see we've got our nice modified berm there. Modifications sometimes can take longer to generate than the locate. So let's take a look at some of the other tools. You can change the type if needed. To a different family, or you can change elevation of certain vertices. Or you can use the move tool. Let's do the move tool now. So you just click the base point and then your end point, and it can move the whole thing. Or you could rotate the whole thing. So again, base point, and then set your rotation angle, and it'll rotate it for you. Again, you have to right click and cancel when you're done. In this case, if I wanted to accept the changes, I click apply, but in this case, I just canceled out of it. So those are the modifications you can use. And let's move ahead here. So I think we do have time to look at the retaining wall. Let's take a look at that. So we'll look at Revit for that one. So here's my little site project I was working on. And maybe we'll check 3D real quick. So I've drawn in this retaining wall. And what's great about it is I was able to grade everything here. So in section, let's go back to our site plan, cut a section through here. You can see I've set everything on the right side of it to a constant elevation, and then it slopes down away from it. Let's take another look here. So I've got a nice smooth flat surface up top, and then I'll just let the rest of the site kind of do whatever it needs to do. And again, you know, there might be a little cleanup here. But yeah, if you look at the side here, you can kind of see how it's a nice slope down over here. And then if we look at the top side, it's a little smoother transition. I think maybe I probably could have modified one of these points here. In fact, maybe I'll go into the site and show you how I did that. So if I edit the site surface, I did have to do a good amount of cleanup to get it to look like that, but still pretty nice. Well, that's going. I'm going to take a look at our question panel here. So you can see all these little points here, and these are modifiable. So this is set to 242. This one is way lower, probably at the bottom of our wall, so 7 feet below. And that kind of continues all the way up. Originally, there were terrain lines in here, but I just modified all the inner ones to match the elevation I wanted, and then just deleted all the extra lines, and that's how I got a nice smooth surface up here. All right. So that's a little bit of the retaining wall. I think, let me see here if there was anything else I wanted to show you guys. Yeah, there was. One other thing I can squeeze in here is you can also do a cut and fill schedule. So I've already created one here. Go to my topography schedule, and you can add in parameters for what's been cut and what's been filled. So I've got my proposed topo here, and with all the modifications I've made to it, you can see how much has been cut, how much has been filled. All right, so with that, let's go back here. And since, yeah, I was able to cut out a lot of the wait and watch time here, I've left a good amount for some Q&A. So I'll go ahead and launch the question panel here. Take a look at these. All right. All right, come on. Let's do our official Q&A here. Go to the end here, get to the right slide. And if you have questions, go ahead and please type them in now. And I'll take a look at them and see what we've got. All right. So that's good. Questions are coming in. I'll start addressing them now. All right. So if the civil engineers have their site modeled correctly with curbs and striping along with the trees and light fixtures in 3D, will that come through in the Land XML? See, I think it would typically be like the model line. So instead of the exact families, you would just have the locations and the sketches of where they go, but then you would have to use Site Designer to apply the families to those locations. All right. So let's see. Next question. Yeah, this one is asking if you need to make sure the Land XML has good resolution. On the Civil 3D side, I'm not sure what kind of options they have for export. But yeah, everything I've gotten has worked pretty well. It's pretty much based off of whatever they've got modeled. There might be a way to do less or more points. I'm not sure about that. And the other can be true. With earlier versions of Revit, I had some of the same XML files I use today that Revit just couldn't bring in. In fact, the site model that you saw today, that would take about 10 to 12 minutes to bring in Revit 2015. Now in Revit 2018, it was down to about 2 minutes. And there were times where I would get XML files that it just couldn't even handle. So its process has gotten better, faster, and can handle a lot more points. All right, so let's see here. Moving right along. Can your sketch lines for roads or berms or other soft terrain extend past the edge of the topo surface? That I'm not sure about. I want to say no, but I would have to double check on that. In fact, I'll put a note here. All right, let's see the next question. Can you get the new data back to Civil 3D? Right, so you could export. Let's go back to our site plan here. So you could just export Land XML. So you could name it and then export the topo surface and the Site Designer alignments. So yeah, very good question. Thank you for asking that. So right, they're not going to get the actual modeled elements of the features. They're just going to get the topography that's been modified and where the new alignments are located. Yeah, Noah wants to see the retaining wall section again, so we can go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so here's the retaining wall. I did this pretty fast, so probably when I modified my topography, I should have, in plan, I should have moved the points a little closer when I did my cleanup. There you go, there's the section. And there's a lot of different options here. If I go back to the site plan and go into the retaining wall command, just like other things you can do, you could do a wall exposed relative to the topo, just like I did with the soft terrain and the sidewalk. But in my case, I wanted a constant elevation. Totally up to you. Hopefully that answers Noah's question. If not, let me know. Let's see, moving right along here. Yes, great questions coming in. Glad we left a good amount of time for this. I've downloaded the files, remind me how to install. Yeah, it's been a while since I did it as well. Maybe go to your download file and see if there's an executable. If not, just try downloading it again and see if the installer will run. If not, yeah, you could probably email me and I could help out with that. Or maybe sometimes even try, if you tried Chrome, try Internet Explorer if it doesn't launch automatically, or vice versa. Let's see, can you import AutoCAD file and create a topo surface from that? So you cannot import an AutoCAD. Well, let me rephrase that. Yes, with Revit out of the box, you can do that. If you have a normal AutoCAD file and it's just topography with sight lines drawn in them, absolutely, you can just create. You don't even need Site Designer for that. You can do that out of the box. What the Land XML is good for is if the civil engineers are working in Civil 3D, and in that case, there's no way to get their topography into Revit. Where the Site Designer family is loaded when the add-in installs. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So, yeah, let's just open up one of the files here. If I click the Load Family button, here's the path. All right, great question from Chris Link. He wants to know where the files are loaded. So here's the link. In fact, I'll just copy this out and put it in there. All right, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, so Brett can't find where to download from his Autodesk account. I can go ahead and show you that again. So here's where it is, manage.autodesk.com. Do a little search for Revit. Find Revit. Click the little Revit button. It gives you a down arrow. Click the downloads. And then over on the right, there's an updates and add-ons tab. Do another search for Site Designer. Or you can just type like Site space D and then click Browser Download. And that's all there is to it there. All right, let's get back to our questions here. All right. All right. Noah also wants to know if you can add a footing to the retaining wall. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's go back into Revit here. So let's see what the family is here. Yeah, so it's a wall. So yeah, you should be able to add in a standard footing. I don't remember if I can do this in section or not. I might have to go into plan. So yeah, my guess is you should be able to do that without a problem. Or maybe we might have to set it to structural first if it's not already. All right. Yeah, with that, I guess we'll do a last call for questions here. And give me 1 second. Let's see. Lost my question panel here. All right, so I'm not seeing any other questions, so I think we'll go ahead and close the session out.
Okay.
And that'll do it.
All right. Thank you, Dan, for the presentation. I did see someone asked if the presentation will be available for download, and we will email you a link to the recording of this presentation tomorrow. You should receive that. And that will conclude our broadcast. If you have additional questions, you can simply reply to the confirmation or reminder email you received from GoToWebinar. We can get those to Dan or the appropriate party to get your questions answered. Once again, if you could take a few moments to answer the short survey, we would appreciate it. It will just automatically pop up as we close down today. Thank you for attending the webcast, and have a great day, everybody.